Hey everyone, Mac here with yet another movie review. I know this one's a little bit late. I've tried to record this about 7 times. There always seems to be some sort of glitch in the matrix or some sort of issue with it, so I can't really help that. I've only just really getting back around to doing reviews again. I've been watching a lot of stuff, trying to get a lot of content prepared ready. Um, so just so you all know, I just gonna get it out of the way straight away. If you like the video, be sure to hit like, subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell to be notified, and yeah. So let's just get into it. Today's video review is for a movie that honestly I was really excited about checking out when it first was announced, and that is Ralph Breaks the Internet, the sequel to probably one of my favorite modern Disney movies, Wreck-It Ralph. So, I mean, let's start out with the story straight away. So, basic premise of the movie is that Ralph is now happy with his life. He's spending time with his friend Vanellope, and he's happy about being a villain. Because now he has someone who he can talk to and who he doesn't feel like he's so evil anymore. But Vanellope is feeling bored because she's always doing the same thing like Ralph because it's what Ralph likes to do. And she knows the ins and outs of her game, so she's bored by it. She wants something new. This leads to Ralph trying to make things a little bit different, a little bit more exciting, and due to unforeseen circumstances, a gamer at the arcade, Litwax, where Sugar Rush and Fix It Felix are, breaks the steering wheel for Sugar Rush and essentially gets the game shut down. So the whole story is basically Ralph wants to save Vanellope's game, so he grabs her and they plan on going into the recently installed Wi-Fi. Nah, I'm just kidding, it's Wi-Fi, to try and find a new whale on the internet after overhearing a little kid mention eBay. So I'm not going to say any more because I don't want to spoil the movie. I feel there's no need to really spoil it. But one thing I will say about it is I do kind of like that it's sort of stayed true to the original's roots, where it's taken a very simple premise and it's executed it really well, so it feels a lot more complex than what it is. Um, so I think one of the big things is it's not as good as its predecessor, like not by a long shot. I personally feel this has something to do with me being a really big gamer, so like I preferred the story of the first film because it was more inspired by the old retro games. Stuff like Sonic the Hedgehog, Street Fighter 2, Q*bert, Tapper. Um, Whereas this one, it takes more of a focus on, social media and the internet and what people will do for likes. Which, by the way, just saying, if you do like the video, be sure to hit the little like button. Nah, I'm just fucking kidding. But yeah, one thing I will say that while I was watching this movie, I did find myself scratching my head a lot of times, saying to myself, this feels like a better produced version of the Emoji Movie. I mean, to be fair, it doesn't really take too much to beat the Emoji Movie. I mean, granted, I still think it's a bad film. The Emoji Movie is a bad movie. It's not as bad as everybody says it is, but it's bland, it's boring, and it's generic. But the way that Disney did it, though, and the way like Wreck-It Ralph really handled that material, it actually felt really good. It didn't just feel like a basic slap in the face sponsorship deal, like, oh, like, here's Twitter because Twitter's on a phone, or here's Facebook because Facebook's on a phone. All these apps that felt like they were brought to life, Twitter was a giant, it was like a giant tree where you had these little birds flying around tweeting out people's, like, tweeting at each other, but all the tweets were like people's, like, images of, like, their cats and stuff like that. And then obviously, like, Facebook was like a gigantic book, which I found was really funny. Plus, the way they did eBay, like, eBay was just a gigantic auction house. and it was just brilliant. It actually contained one of the better scenes in the film. Basically, the scene revolves around Ralph and Vanellope trying to bid for the steering wheel, but they have no idea what bidding is, so they just start shouting out these random numbers, and it's so funny. Um, Honestly though, I feel probably one of the best sequences in the film is there's a bit where Ralph's trying to go viral, and by the way, if you hear a little bit of noise there, it's just me moving the table. I'm just a little bit uncomfortable at the moment. But yeah, so one of the best sequences in the film is Ralph's trying to go viral, and Vanellope's trying to go around promoting it. And so they send her off to a Disney website, which is essentially just it's kind of like a digital version of Disney World. So it's just that entire sequence is just littered with cameos, references. It's brilliant. You know, you've got bits where Iron Man's flying around the castle. You've got the stormtroopers are essentially like the security guards of the entire park. You've got Eeyore sitting there being depressed because, you know, what's Eeyore without a little bit of depression? There's a Q&A with Groot, which I found really funny. And then, of course, there's that scene from the trailers which has stuff like it has like the Disney princesses meeting Vanellope, and I think the thing that made that so good is you had a good majority of the original voice actresses back to voice the characters. You know, you had Mandy Moore back, you had Jodie Benson back, you had Paige O'Hara. I mean, that's just naming a few. I think one of the big things I loved about that scene as well, which I do believe was in the trailer, is there's a bit where Merida starts talking, and none of them understand her. I mean, she's speaking like a very broad Scottish accent, and they put it down to the fact that she's from Pixar. So they claim like, oh, she's from another studio, so we don't understand her. And I love that. I really, really love that. I also love the bit where Cinderella turns her glass slipper into a shiv. Um, I don't know why violence just makes a lot like things a lot funnier. Um, I'm not saying that as a sadistic person. I mean like it's funny in cartoons. Uh, but yeah, I will say though the fact that it moved away from the gaming once again, it really did take away from the charm that the first film had. I mean, one of the big issues I had was when they first started pegging a Wreck-It Ralph sequel. They mentioned in interviews that they wanted to look more towards doing an online gaming community. Which I mean, there is an online game in this movie, but it's not really the online gaming community they were talking about. And I mean, they even talked about possibly having appearances from like Mario and Lara Croft, uh, who none of them really appeared in the movie, which was a shame. I really did think that was a shame. I mean, I know I heard recently on another YouTube video, I forgot where I heard it, but apparently, like, the reason they didn't include Mario was because they claimed he would sort of like overshadow Ralph as a character. Yet they have Sonic the Hedgehog in, and they have Bowser in, and they have these characters which are still as iconic as Mario. I think I might just turn my mic off. Here we go. I think that's working. I hope that's working. So yeah, but yeah, so they have these characters in who are just as iconic, and I don't know. It still annoys me that Mario's not in it. I mean, the film itself is definitely carried by the central duo of John C. Reilly and Sarah Silverman, who, you know, they're once again reprising the roles as both Wreck-It Ralph and Vanellope von Schweetz. And when you hear the way the lines are spoken, you can tell that the two like clearly have a great performing chemistry. There's also a few great standout performances in the film as well, including Dan TDM, who voiced E-Boy, who's like a little eBay pop-up notification that keeps showing up in the film. There's Gal Gadot, obviously, of course, from Wonder Woman fame, who plays badass racer Shank in the violent online twisted metal Carmageddon style game Slaughter Race. Bill Vader, Bill, Jesus, I'm stuttering today. Bill Hader, who voices JP Spanley, he goes uncredited in the actual movie, but he's a really good character. Alfred Molina is in it, who voices Virus Taylor on the Deep Dark Web, which, by the way, the Deep Dark Web sequence of this entire movie is brilliant. Obviously, at the start of the game, I say at the start of the game, at the start of the film, they make it out quite clear that anyone who's using the internet, that icon is sort of like a little tiny sort of version of themselves. That's the characters that you see in the film. And when they're in the deep dark web, because when most people are using, the deep dark web and purchasing things they shouldn't be, they normally go on the anonymous browser, which I like. I like how they represent it, because what they did is they had all little characters in these dark little hoodies, like covering their heads up and stuff. It was really, really funny. It's sort of like a blink and you'll miss it type of joke. So I loved how they handled the dark web. And also Alan Tudyk returns as well. He plays Nosmore in this. Nosmore is sort of like a search engine created by Disney, who is an equivalent to Ask Jeeves of Google. I mean, obviously he doesn't reprise his role as King Candy from the first film for obvious reasons, but it's nice to see him back. I like the fact that Disney keep bringing him back. He's a good actor. Of course, all the amazing performances I've just listed, they're all complemented superbly by the many amazing cameo voices in the film. These roles include the princesses, as I have previously mentioned. Tim Allen returns as Buzz Lightyear, Anthony Daniels is back as C-3PO, and Vin Diesel is back as Groot. And while I was extremely disappointed at the lack of use of Jack McBrayer, who of course plays Fix-It Felix, and Jane Lynch, who plays Calhoun, I was really, really pleasantly surprised to see Roger Craig Smith reprising his role as Sonic the Hedgehog, and even having a lot more lines this time than the previous film. And Sonic was even in it a lot more than what he was in the previous film. I mean, obviously, the previous film was just in a billboard. I mean, this makes me really happy because, honestly, I think Roger Craig Smith is probably the best Sonic the Hedgehog out there. I mean, I'm still excited to see what Ben Schwartz is going to do in the movie. Yes, go on, you can try and crucify me if you want, but I'm actually excited for that. And yeah, I do feel Roger Craig Smith is the best version of Sonic. So it's nice to see him reprising the role as well. So like most Disney films, the movie does really hit you right in the feels. It tells a very beautiful story about friendship, finding yourself in the world, and moving on to pursue your true passions. Personally, for me, there was two scenes in particular that really complemented each other incredible, to the point where I was actually ready to cry. So this scene in particular involves Ralph going into a comment section, and he starts encountering these negative posts about his videos, his personal appearance, his personality. Basically, they're calling him this worthless piece of crap, saying that he shouldn't be alive and stuff like that. And he gets really sad about this, but at the same time, he realizes that he's going to grin and bear it because of his best friend, and because he's doing this for his best friend. And then the scene that follows immediately after, it's heartbreaking. You really do feel for him, and I love that. It made it. It was probably the most heartbreaking scene in the entire film. It was perfect. All in all, though, I will say that I feel Ralph Breaks the Internet was a fun return to this world. It definitely is one that I would love to see more of in the future, but personally, I think I'd like to see more of a video game side. Re-explore some of these gaming icons who have become, very famous in the world. Includes characters like Mario, Lara Croft, Crash Bandicoot, I don't know, Link from The Legend of Zelda. Hell, I mean, you can have a silent character in there, just throw him in there. I don't know. But as of this point, there's talks of a potential sequel with the princesses, which I would be very happy to pay for to see. I loved the princesses in this movie. I thought they were really fun. Unfortunately, it does seem like there's not going to be a third Wreck-It Ralph film as of speaking. Hopefully, they decide to change their minds. I mean, no offense to Pixar. I mean, because I actually do like these films in a way, but I mean, if Cars can get 3 films, Wreck-It Ralph can, surely. Um, and I'll even say the same for The Incredibles. But yeah, the world in it though was absolutely stunning. It was vibrant. It was full of color. Even if it did feel like the Emoji Movie at many times. One thing I will say as well, there's these 2 after credit scenes. One of them is a sequence from the trailer. If anyone remembers in the trailer, there's a scene where like there's a bunny getting fed pancakes to the point where it grows like really, really obese. That bit is in there. It's left until the after credit scene because they make a joke about how things in the trailers don't appear in the film, and then obviously they do it because most people have probably left while the credits have been rolling. And the other one is the first teaser trailer for Frozen 2, which we recently got. Obviously, if you've seen the Frozen 2 trailer, I'd say definitely check out the Wreck-It Ralph one because it has a little bit of extra footage. But yeah, and finally as well, it was nice to hear a new song from Imagine Dragons as well. I'm a very big fan of Imagine Dragons, and so hearing their new song, Zero, was fantastic. The movie's definitely a must-see film. Definitely if you're a fan of the first movie. I do still think for the record, though, that it should have been called Ralph Wrecks the Internet. My rating is 4 out of 5 stars. If you like the video, please be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell to be notified of the upcoming projects that I'm doing, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and until next time.